New York lost nearly 90,000 residents in a single year. California, over 200,000 people packed up and moved to other states. Illinois has been bleeding population for 10 straight years, and it's not slowing down, it's accelerating. Something is happening in America right now. People aren't just moving, they're fleeing. Whole neighborhoods going dark. Moving trucks booked months in advance. U-Haul running out of inventory in certain cities. But here's the part nobody talks about. It's not always about money. Some people leave for taxes. Sure, but others leave because their town just died around them. The coffee shop closed, then the school, then the hospital, and suddenly you're living in a place that used to be something. In this video, we're going through 10 states Americans are turning their backs on and why, with real data, real stories, and the uncomfortable truths each state would rather you didn't know. Like this video so the algorithm doesn't relocate me to one of these states. And subscribe, because wherever you live right now, this list might change your mind. Number 10, Louisiana. Let's start with a state that's been quietly losing people while the rest of the country wasn't paying attention. Louisiana's been dealing with outbound migration for years, and the reasons stack up like a bad poker hand. Median household income sits around $52,000, well below the national average. The economy leans heavily on oil and gas, which means when energy prices dip, the whole state feels it. Then there's the weather. And by weather, I mean hurricanes. Repeated, devastating hurricanes that have damaged infrastructure so badly that some neighborhoods never fully recovered. Insurance costs are through the roof, literally. Some homeowners are paying double what they paid 5 years ago. Crime doesn't help. New Orleans regularly ranks among the most dangerous cities in the country. And outside the city, the job market is thin enough that younger residents head for Texas, Georgia, or the Carolinas the moment they get a chance. One local put it bluntly on Reddit, "I love this place, but loving a place doesn't pay for a new roof every 2 years. People are leaving Louisiana with heavy hearts, but they're leaving." Number 9, West Virginia. If there's one state that defines long-term population decline, it's West Virginia. The state has been losing residents for most of the last decade. Between 2010 and 2020 alone, about 59,000 people left, around a 3.2% drop. The issue is structural. Coal, the industry that built this state, has been dying for decades, and nothing has fully replaced it. Unemployment is high, median income is low. Opioid addiction has hit harder here than almost anywhere else in the country. The state has more deaths than births most years, which means it's not just losing people to migration, the population is literally shrinking from within. West Virginia knows it's in trouble. They've started programs to attract remote workers, offering cash incentives to relocate there. And the scenery is genuinely stunning. Mountains, rivers, trails. But beauty alone doesn't keep people who need jobs, hospitals, and functioning broadband. Young people leave for college and don't come back. That's the pattern. And until the economy diversifies, it's hard to see what changes. Number 8, Hawaii. This one surprises people. How can anyone leave paradise? Pretty easily, actually, when a gallon of milk costs $7 and a modest house costs $800,000. Hawaii is beautiful, but it's also one of the most expensive states in the country by almost every metric: housing, groceries, utilities, transportation. The cost of living is about 90% above the national average. For longtime locals, especially native Hawaiians and working class families, it's becoming unlivable. Tourism drives the economy, but tourism jobs don't pay enough to afford living where you work. So people leave, often to the mainland, Nevada, Washington, Texas. The geographic isolation makes it worse. Everything has to be imported. If you need specialized medical care, you might need to fly to the mainland. If your teenager wants more than 2 college options, same deal. Hawaii's population has been declining since around 2020. And while international migration helps offset some of the loss, the domestic exodus is real and it's emotional. People aren't leaving because they want to. They're leaving because they can't afford to stay. Number 7, Connecticut. Connecticut is one of those states that looks great on paper. Close to New York City. Beautiful fall foliage. Excellent schools. High median income. But dig a little deeper and you'll find some of the highest property taxes in the country, over 2.1%. Combine that with a state income tax, expensive housing, and a job market that's lost major corporate headquarters over the past decade, and you start to understand the quiet exodus. People don't storm out of Connecticut, they calculate their way out. They look at the tax bill, the heating costs, the commute, and they realize their money stretches twice as far in North Carolina or Tennessee. The state has been hovering near the top of outbound migration lists for years. Most people leaving are headed to Florida, the Carolinas, or other lower tax states. Many are retirees who see no reason to keep paying Connecticut prices on a fixed income. One former resident described it this way: "I didn't leave because I hated Connecticut. I left because Connecticut made it too expensive to love it." Number 6. New Jersey. If Connecticut is the quiet leaver, New Jersey is the loud one. This state has been near the top of every state's people are leaving list for years. The property taxes here are the highest in the nation, averaging nearly 2.5%. On a $400,000 home, that's nearly $10,000 a year just in property tax. Combine that with high cost of living, congested commutes, and a general sense that you're paying premium prices for middling infrastructure, and you get a state that keeps losing residents to Pennsylvania, Florida, and the Carolinas. New Jersey's population has been in net decline for domestic migration consistently. International immigration has been the only thing keeping the overall numbers from collapsing, but that buffer has weakened recently as net international migration dropped nationwide. The thing about New Jersey is the people who leave often still love the state, the food, the culture, the proximity to both Philly and New York. But at some point, the math stops working. And when your neighbor sells and moves to a place where the property tax is $2,000 instead of $10,000, you start looking at Zillow listings in South Carolina. Number 5. Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania's population decline is quieter than its neighbors, but it's there, and it's concentrated in specific areas, rural counties, old industrial towns, and parts of Philadelphia that have been losing residents for decades. The state has a split personality. Pittsburgh is booming with tech and healthcare. Parts of the Philadelphia suburbs are thriving, but huge swaths of central and western Pennsylvania are hollowing out. Coal towns that never recovered, steel towns running on memory, young people leaving for jobs and not coming back. Property taxes vary wildly by county but can be brutally high in the wrong areas. The winters are harsh. And the roads, let's just say Pennsylvania potholes are less of a joke and more of a lifestyle. Census data shows Pennsylvania's growth has been essentially flat, propped up only by international migration. Without that, it's shrinking. And the domestic migration loss keeps ticking upward. Number 4. Alaska. Alaska is gorgeous. It's also massive, remote, and punishingly expensive once you factor in heating, transportation, and the cost of getting basically anything delivered. The state has the highest outbound migration rate by percentage. About 0.8% of the population leaves each year. Many were originally drawn by the oil industry, but as that sector contracts, there's less reason to endure the isolation, the darkness, and the winters that last 7 months. Healthcare access is limited outside of Anchorage. The nearest specialist might be a 3-hour flight. Schools in rural areas are underfunded. And the famous Alaska Permanent Fund dividend, a yearly check to every resident from oil revenues, has been shrinking, removing one of the last financial incentives to stay. People who leave often say the same thing: they love the nature but couldn't handle the loneliness. When the sun disappears for weeks at a time and the nearest movie theater is 200 miles away, even the most rugged adventurer starts browsing apartments in Portland. Number 3. Illinois. 10 consecutive years of population decline. That's Illinois. And most of it traces back to one city, Chicago. To be fair, Chicago is still a world-class city. Architecture, food, music, culture. But it's also expensive, heavily taxed, and plagued by violent crime in certain neighborhoods that dominates national headlines. The state's property taxes average 2.3%, second highest in the nation. The pattern is stark. Illinois loses about 84,000 residents a year to domestic migration. Some go to Indiana, where housing is half the price and the state line is 20 minutes away. Others head south to Tennessee, Texas, or the Carolinas. The irony? Illinois is still gaining people from international migration, roughly 40,000 a year, but it's not enough to offset the domestic bleeding. The state is in a tug of war between global appeal and local frustration is winning. Budget crises, pension debt, and political dysfunction add gasoline to the fire. Illinois isn't just losing residents, it's losing confidence. Number 2, New York. The biggest single state population loss in the country, nearly 90,000 residents gone in 1 year. And this has been happening for 4 straight years. New York's problem is simple and brutal. It's too expensive for most people. Median rent in Manhattan is over $4,000 a month. But even upstate, Buffalo, Syracuse, Rochester, the tax burden and cost of living push people toward cheaper states. The pandemic was the tipping point. When offices went remote, the question changed from can I afford to stay in New York to why would I? Thousands of workers realized they could keep their New York salary and live in a place where their rent was half the price. Florida, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina were the top destinations. International immigration used to be New York's population safety net. Hundreds of thousands of immigrants arriving every year kept the numbers stable. But recent policy shifts have reduced that inflow dramatically, and now the math no longer works. The state isn't dying, it's reshuffling. But for the people leaving, the message is clear: New York is a place to visit, not a place they can afford to live. Number 1. California. You knew this was coming. California lost about 229,000 residents to other states in a single year through domestic migration. That's the highest raw number of any state by far. And while international immigration offset most of that, the total population only dipped by about 9,000. The trend is unmistakable. People born and raised in California are leaving at a rate the state has never seen. The reasons are a greatest hits album of American frustration. Housing prices that make your eyes water. The median home in many metro areas is over $700,000. A gas tax that adds $1 per gallon. State income tax topping out at 13.3%. Wildfire risk. Drought. Traffic that turns a 10-mile commute into a 90-minute therapy session. LA County alone lost 60,000 to 70,000 residents in a single year, the highest numeric loss of any county in the nation. People are going to Texas, Arizona, Nevada, Idaho, and Tennessee. And here's what's shifted. It's no longer just retirees or low-income families. Tech workers, small business owners, and middle-class families are leaving in droves. Remote work made it possible. And the rising cost of everything made it necessary. California is not collapsing. The economy is still massive. The culture is still magnetic. But for the people packing the U-Haul, the dream has a price tag they can't justify anymore. So, there you have it. 10 states that are watching their residents walk out the door, some quickly, some slowly, but all steadily. The pattern is clear. Americans are moving toward affordability, lower taxes, warmer weather, and space. And away from states that haven't figured out how to keep their people. Now, here's my question to you. Are you staying or going? Drop your state and whether you're thinking about leaving in the comments. I want to know. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one from whatever affordable state I end up in.